Gen Z does not want to work like boomers, and boomers are losing their minds about it. Just look at these stats. Over 50% of boomers have never attempted to negotiate salary, but 55% of Gen Z are negotiating their starting salaries.
That sure is a big difference.
You think that's bad? Wait till you hear this one. Last year, 51% of Gen Z workers said they'd look for a new job if they didn't get a raise. You know how many boomers said they would? 20%! Sweet Louise, that's a big difference. Stats like these are making boomers lose their freaking minds. They think Gen Z are completely out of line. They'll say things like,
"You kids want a trophy just for showing up. Today's generation are all entitled little brats. Back in my day, we did things the right way."
Listen, I get it. From where these old heads are standing, it looks like laziness. It looks like a generation that wants everything handed to them without putting in the work. But Gen Z isn't refusing to work. They're refusing the boomer version of work. And that's driving the old heads insane. They hate that Gen Z isn't falling for their advice.
Okay, but I'm confused. Who's really in the wrong here? Is Gen Z entitled and lazy, or are boomers just out of touch?
Let me do what I do best. Explain. Before we tear apart Joe's advice, we need to be fair to the man for one brief second, because Joe's advice wasn't always wrong. When Boomer Joe entered the workforce, there was a deal laid out for him. If you worked hard and dedicated yourself to one company, you got rewarded for it, big time. Back then, buying a house was practically free.
Really?
Okay, not exactly. It was 2 to 3 times the average annual salary, but very cheap compared to today. And entry-level jobs paid a living wage. You got a pension, you had job security. That was the deal.
I don't see what's supposed to be different.
Every single thing in that deal is different, Joe. Today, that's considered a fairy tale you read for kids. Housing in most major cities now costs 8 to 12 times the average annual salary. Entry-level jobs require 5 years of experience and pay roughly the same as they did 30 years ago. And job security? Don't even get me started.
I won't.
That's why Gen Z don't want to
Put in the hours.
They're not refusing work per se. It's just that doing things the old school way doesn't make any sense.
Maybe things have changed a bit or two, but some things are timeless, like loyalty. That'll never go out of fashion. You kids are job hopping every couple of years, like it's some kind of game. That ain't the way to do it. Find yourself a good company and then give them everything you've got until your back gives in. They'll stand by your side. That's what big companies do best. Trust me, hotshot, loyalty always pays off.
Oh Lord, where do I even start with this? First of all, Joe, "they will take care of you" is an unhinged thing to say. Is this some kind of joke? Large companies don't take care of their workforce. Trust me, it doesn't matter if you gave up your first child for that company. If they can find a way to have your job be done for a few pennies cheaper, they will do so. It ain't no question about it. You will receive that "we've made a difficult decision" email from leadership while they're at a conference in a nice hotel. You will have to log back into LinkedIn and tell the world you're excited about the next step in your career, if you catch my drift. That's what loyalty looks like now.
But surely if you find a genuinely good company, they'll...
No! Joe's fantasy is just that, a fantasy. And here's the part that really grinds my gears. Staying loyal doesn't just cost you emotionally. It costs you money. Lots and lots of money. Big Corp always pays new hires significantly more than loyal employees doing the exact same role. This is very much a thing. Back in Joe's day, loyalty made sense because the companies were loyal back. That was the norm until the 1980s. So Gen Z job hops, not because they're quitters, but because they live in a completely different world.
What do you have to say about that, Joe?
Write this down, egghead.
I'm not an egg.
Loyal or not loyal, it doesn't really matter. If you put your head down and do your absolute damnedest, you will get ahead. That will never change. The employer always wants the most qualified person to have the best position in the company. Can't argue with logic, kid.
I mean, that does sound pretty hard to argue with.
Well, I'm gonna. Let me show you exactly why it's completely wrong. The reason it's wrong is because...
Now you listen to me. You want a raise? Well, then you go in there and you earn it. Forget about all that modern work-life balance nonsense. That's a whole bunch of baloney. Back in them olden days, you didn't hear no one talk about that bullshit.
Yeah, I'm sure that made sense for you, Joe. I'm sure back in them olden days that worked out great. You sacrificed, you put in the hours, and it paid off. You're not lying about that. But you had something we don't have. A goddamn finish line. A nice, livable pension. Annual raises along the way. A career path that actually went somewhere predictable. Bro could see exactly what he was working towards, and it was worth it. You're expecting Gen Z to make the same sacrifice with no guaranteed progression, no loyalty, and no promise that any of it leads anywhere. Just keep giving, keep grinding, keep putting in the hours. Big Corp says we're like a family, so it must be true. Well, that shit. That's so shitty.
You ain't gonna get it if you ain't willing to work for it.
I am. It's just that if I work for it, I'm probably still not gonna get it. That's why Gen Z is rejecting your bull. It's not worth giving your life to something you're not gonna get.
Sounds like you think you're some kind of hotshot. Well, there ain't no getting around it, kid.
Joe, I need to ask you something. Listen, you're not dumb. You've made a good life for yourself. You've kept up with trends, at least when it comes to your favorite sports ball team. So why do you keep pushing this outdated, recycled, dumb-ass advice?
The answer will shock you.
I don't know what you're talking about, kiddo.
Oh, you do, sir. You do! The reason you won't let go of your old head advice is because that would undermine your life story. It would be an attack on your identity. Think about what it would cost Boomer Joe to admit the game was easier when he played it. It would mean his success wasn't purely the result of hard work and grit. It would mean the story he has been telling himself for 40 years is less impressive than he thought.
Gosh darn almighty, I never thought of it like that.
No sad-ass motherfucker out there does that voluntarily, especially not stuck-up boomers. They're literally the most entitled and self-righteous generation of all time. It's all about me, 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 me. That's why when Gen Z refuses to bend over, he doubles down. He insists that you do. He keeps repeating his goddamn...
I'm not saying it was perfect back then. I'm just saying we didn't sit around complaining and crying about it. We got on with it.
You didn't complain about it because you could pay your rent, Joe. I understand your psychology, Joe. I understand what's underneath that thick skull of yours. It's like this. Every piece of advice Joe gives, come in early, stay loyal, sacrifice everything, stop job hopping, is not really advice for anyone's benefit. It's a defense of his own story. He can't fathom the idea that he had it all handed to him on a shining bright silver platter. That's all this boomer cares about, protecting himself and his identity.
Classic Joe.
So, now you know. Gen Z isn't refusing to work. They're just not going to play a sport where their team is guaranteed to lose. Back when Joe still had hair on his head, the system worked in his favor. But it doesn't anymore.
Back in them olden days.
Shut up, boomer!
Cringe. You shouldn't be so mean to him.
Why in the name of St. Peter the Apostle would I not?
Look, I know he sounds condescending and all, but deep down, he genuinely thinks he's helping you. He's not evil. He's just a little out of touch. Come on. What do you say we all just agree to disagree, and then let's go have a beer together?
You're right. I'd like that. I would love that, actually.
How do I get the interweb computer system to work? I paid big bucks for this.
Oh my God, you fucking boomer!